101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the debut author of the book The Unfair Advantage Weaponizing the Hypomanic Toolbox. None other than Mr. Todd Hagopian.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Welcome, Mr. Todd, and Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Sure, absolutely. My name's Todd Hagopian. I'm a business transformation expert and general manager. I have spent the last 15 plus years turning around businesses and also spent 15 years undiagnosed bipolar. And as I got diagnosed and got medicated, I had to teach myself how to use those hypomanic tendencies in a different way, and ended up packaging those up into a toolbox, and that's what we're here to talk about today.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Todd. Thank you for sharing your debut book to the world. So let's talk about the un, unfair advantage. Its prerogative title. In a world of striving for a level
Mhm.
playing field, why frame it as an unfair advantage?
Yeah, so it all comes down to the best business people in the world, right? We all read the same 20 books. We all know the same 20 methodologies. And if we all manage the same, we're going to get similar results. So what I've done here is come up with a way to use hypomanic and bipolar inspired business methodologies to help teach people and systemize differentiated thinking that can drive breakthrough results. And so that's why we call it the unfair advantage, because it's basically using differentiated thinking that you don't normally get in the business books that we all read, and things that anybody can put in place, whether you're bipolar or you have a normal brain, in ways that can put you ahead of your peers and help you get promoted out there in the business world.
Let's define the core concept. What exactly is the hypomanic toolbox? Is it a
Sure.
mindset, a collection of skills, or specific neurobiological state that can be assessed on demand?
Yeah, great question. It's kind of a little bit of everything. So what it is essentially is systematized methodologies that are inspired by hypomania, which is a aspect of bipolar. So in bipolar, you have hypomania, which is the good part, quote unquote, good part of bipolar that allows you to work really hard, set huge goals, think outside the box, hyper focus, that kind of thing. Then there's the bad part of bipolar, which is the bipolar depression and this and that. Well, during hypomanic phases, and you've all heard of a bunch of billionaires that have had this hypomania, that kind of, the Ted Turners of the world, and the Vincent Van Goghs, and the potentially some other folks out there who may or may not be hypomanic, but they've got these certain aspects of their personality that allows them to manage in this way. What I've done is tried to take those and mimic them and systematize them so that you can attack goal setting from a hypomanic scenario. You can attack profit maximization, you can attack effort and focus, or continuous improvement or innovation, all from that hypomanic mindset. So it's using the hypomanic it's using the neurodivergence part of that, but also systematizing it into methodologies that we can all use.
Interesting, Mr. Dodd. Truly empowering. Your book moves beyond just destigmatizing hypomania and into actively weaponizing. What is a pivotal moment in your life or career when you realized that the state was not just something to manage?
Yeah, so I went 15 years undiagnosed, and so I went through climbing the corporate ladder very fast. And then every time something good would happen, something bad would happen, right? I would self sabotage or something bad would come from the bipolar depression. Once I got on the medication, it worked great. And all of a sudden I felt better. I was more even keel, but I had completely lost that business edge. And so I really had to pick between sanity and success, and that just didn't seem fair. So what I tried to do was figure out if there was a way to mimic that and systematize it so that I could stay healthy but continue managing the way I had been on my way up. And so what we basically have done is come up with several methodologies that you can implement. And as I turned around the first business, and as I turned around the second business, I got to the third, and about 13 months in, I said, "Man, I forgot to do that thing from the first business turnaround." And at that point is when I really decided to write it all down, come up with the toolbox, and then implement it in a very structured way. And as I turned around the fourth business, I was like, man, you know what? I think I can teach this to people. I've been teaching it to my directors and my second in commands, and they've been doing it. I think I can teach this to people. On top of that, I think I can get people to understand that neurodivergence can be a positive in the workplace. So there's that secondary benefit of destigmatizing hypomania, bipolar, and neurodivergence in general.
Walk us through a specific tool in the toolbox. For instance, a tool for hyper focus or rapid agitation. How does someone consciously take this tool off and shelf they use it to solve a complex business problem?
Sure. So innovation is probably the easiest one to talk about. So obviously, very several different neurodivergent kind of illnesses or disorders have this thinking outside the box aspect to it. But what we've done is made it orthodoxy smashing innovation. And so what you do is from a very methodical way, you take a look at every orthodoxy in your industry. So everything that people believe is true, and they have for decades, and you start to ask, what if that wasn't true? What would I do differently if that was not true? How would I smash that orthodoxy? And what would that do to the industry? And by doing this more than just once in a while or an occasional outside the box thought, and you actually do it in a very structured methodology where you go orthodoxy by orthodoxy and smash it, and then look at what that might look like. Start to look at what the return on investment could be, what the effort would take to do it, and what the size of the prize would be. You can approach innovation in a much different way. And what I mean by that is it's not always coming up with a new product, right? That's how people think big time, big picture innovation is. But in reality, orthodoxy smashing innovation could be as simple as process innovation, doing something differently, cutting a lead time, taking a feature out and then investing a little bit back in and changing the complete value proposition of the product.
A key concern for many is the crash after the hypomanic period. How does your system build a safeguard or a soft landing protocol to prevent the destructive cycles often associated with this state?
Sure. So first of all, if you're not bipolar, you don't have hypomania. So this is all mimicked hypomania, which allows you to essentially use these systems and use these methodologies without that risk. Now, for somebody like me who has the hypomania, I have to take medicine, or I have to manage my sleep, or I have to make sure I don't drink alcohol, and I have to do different things to avoid that bipolar depression. But luckily, you can implement these systems and these methodologies without kind of bringing on bipolar depression. You can't make yourself bipolar. So if you have a normal mind, you can take these ways of thinking and implement them and put them into your day-to-day business life without any risk whatsoever. Now you do have to watch for overwork and you have to make sure that you're not forcing it. And there's going to be like 10 things in this book, and you're not going to want to do all 10 at the same time. You're going to want to pick and choose, okay, I need orthodoxy, smashing innovation. I need grandiose goal setting. I need hyper focus, and you start to pick the ones that make the most sense for your business at that moment in time.
You talk about weaponizing this energy. What is the target? Is the target market com- completion, internal innovation, or personal productivity, or something else entirely?
Yeah, so my target market is really business transformation in general. So not bipolar folks, not normal folks. It's just if you were trying to transform a business, what you absolutely have to do is think differently than the competition. And there's not that many books out there that are truly about business transformation or business turnarounds. And it is a specialized skill, but it's one that so many of us need because so many of us get dropped into business turnaround situations, and nobody tells us that we have to manage those situations differently than when we were just trying to grow a business or when we were trying to maintain a business. It's a completely different management style, and every one of us eventually will find ourselves in a turnaround situation. And if you don't know how to deal with that, it can be very daunting, and frankly, it can be career ending. And I got dropped into it real early in my career and then had to do it. I got good at it. So then I started doing it over and over and over again. And that's what I'm trying to share with people is this is how you approach a turnaround. This is how you approach a transformation. And these tools will make you much better at executing it.
Is the hypomanic toolbox in all or nothing state? Or can individual learn to access specific tools like enhance creativity or relentless drive or independently of the others?
Yeah, no, for sure. You can pick and choose which ones are most relevant for you. There's a couple that are always relevant. For example, the productivity I think is an extreme one that is good to talk about because you can use this in small business, startup, or big business. You can even use it in turnarounds or growth scenarios. So the Karelin method says activity times efficiency times focus equals results. Everybody kind of knows the activity times efficiency, right? If I work more hours and I'm more efficient during my hours, I'm going to get more done, right? If I'm 20% more hours, 20% more efficient, I'll be 44% more productive. That part that people don't do is the focus part. And this is where the hypomania comes in. If you're going to work 50 hours a week on 100 different things, you're going to work anywhere between a half hour and 2 hours on each thing. If you take it and go 80/20, there might be 20 of those things that are important. We talk about the 80/20 squared methodology, which really tries to get you down to, the 4 to 6 of those things that really drive all of your results. And what you want to do is schedule your entire 40 to 50 hours around those 4 or 5 things. So your calendar doesn't lie. Take out your calendar and look at all the things you spent your time on last week. And that's what your priorities are. So what we preach is make sure that you're making as much money as you can every minute of the day. And the best way to do that is to make sure that all of your calendar is focused on those 4 or 6 things that are driving all of your profit. And so now you're doing activity times efficiency, which can look like systematizing, automating, outsourcing, or killing something, and then times focus to make sure you're spending every minute on those most profitable activities.
Interesting indeed, Mr. Todd. So, what does maintenance look like for someone using these toolbox? Is it about sleep, nutrition, mindfulness, or unique kind of a psychological hygiene that you've developed?
Yep. Yeah. So for me, having bipolar sleep and mindfulness are extremely important. For somebody implementing this, that's not as important because you're probably only going to work 40 or 50 hours a week. You don't have to fight off the negatives of the disorder. What is important is employee maintenance. And so if you look at some of these methodologies are fairly intense and fairly extreme, and employees are not used to that, and they need to be taken care of. So one thing that we do build into it is kind of the sprint and break methodology. So, for example, in the continuous improvement section, we have 52 continuous improvement projects in 52 weeks. Well, in normal organizations, there might be only five huge continuous improvement projects in a year, right? The difference in ours versus normal is the boss might pick the best 10 people and say, you guys are going to be on these five projects. We always put the best people on these projects, right? And then they're spending half of their time on five different projects plus their normal job. Well, what we do is we do 52 projects, which sounds a lot harder, but in reality, the way we have designed it is there's only one project per person at a time, and the projects are only 6 weeks, and they have only one goal at a time to get done rather than trying to bite off a huge 52-week project. You're working on very small 6 week projects that have a single deliverable, and you're only working at one at a time. So even though it sounds like we're doing a lot more, and we are throughout the year, the individuals involved are actually doing less. And that's where you have to take care of your team. But on top of that, as you're finishing up 6 week projects, you're starting to get the benefit for those. Where in the normal scenario, you might be doing a 52-week project and you finish it in the 52nd week, or you don't. But let's say you do, you still got none of the benefit for the whole year because all you were trying to do is get to the end of the project. Whereas in ours, you're getting benefit every single time you finish one of these little projects.
Interesting indeed, Mr. Todd. Truly, truly empowering answer. So, how do you communicate this way of working to team a co-founder or investor who may have completely different cognitive style? What chapter in your book provides the best script for the conversation?
Sure. I mean, we always start with grandiose goal setting, and grandiose goal setting comes frankly right out of hypomania, right? Bipolar folks are known for having this kind of grandiosity, and they think really big, and they get really excited, and they start running towards these huge goals, and they commit to massive things. And I always say, if you commit to 6% growth and you get 9% growth, that's great. That's under promising, over delivering. That's what they teach us in school, right? But if I commit to 25% and fall short and get to 19%, I'm getting the promotion because I got 19% and you got nine. And so the idea behind grandiose goal setting is not to always overcommit and underdeliver. It's to not be afraid to set big, big picture goals. And the idea there is, for example, I typically will set a goal like we're going to double our business in 3 or 4 years. And what you have to do is you have to lay it out in a way that the team believes it and then cut it down into smaller bite sized goals so that the team can get behind it. So, this is an example where you think differently instead of being afraid to even say 9% this year, because then you might have to make 10% next year. You say, I'm going to double the business in 3 years, and this is how I'm going to roll it back and get us to believe it. And you'll do a 9 box of goals where it'll be organic growth, profit growth, and then innovation, 1 year goal, 3 year goal, and 5 year goal. And you lay out this 9 box so that everyone knows exactly where you're going and understands that if you hit all nine of these things over the next 5 years, you will double your business. And it allows people to get internally excited about it. They start believing it. And once you get the team to believe it, the grandiosity kind of goes away. And then it just becomes like, yes, we have a roadmap to get there. But they all get excited, and you kind of create these battles, which is another part of the hypomanic toolbox, is creating a battle so that people get excited and they can. It's kind of this David versus Goliath thing. Can we really double the business in the next 5 years, 3 years? And that's how you gather the momentum around it.
Mr. Todd, as a debut author, what are your short term and long term goals?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't sell any consulting or anything like that. The idea behind this is really to twofold. One, to teach people how to think differently and how to turn around businesses because it's a skill that I think not enough people teach out there. And then two is to not only normalize neurodivergence in the workplace, but also allow people to actually see that there are benefits to it. So I'm not successful despite my bipolar. I'm successful because of my bipolar. And it's very important for people to understand that neurodivergence in the workplace is not something that needs to be fixed. It's something that needs to be valued. There are certain things that different neurodivergent minds bring to the table that I can teach you, and then there are things that you can teach me about how to manage mine so that I can be more successful. And that's how we have to look at neurodivergence. It's an area of diversity in the workplace that is really not taught. So we all know whether we're good at it or not. We all know how to deal with gender. We know how to deal with race. We know how to deal with religion. We've been being taught that for decades, right? We might not be good at it, but we know how to do it. Neurodivergence is just something that has not been taught. So when somebody comes out as neurodivergence, or something comes to light that there's a neurodivergence, the instant thing for managers is they feel fear or they want to fix it. And it's not something that needs to be fixed, and it's definitely not something that needs to be afraid of. So those are the thoughts for me. Now, what I've done is I built a brand, toddhagopian.com, and I'm putting tons of free information out there, because again, I'm not selling anything. So I'm putting a ton of free information out there so that people can learn these. They can converse about them. They can ask me about them. I can help them through it. It's For me, it's really about teaching the stuff I've learned, getting better as I hear other people give me better ideas, and really learning how to transform businesses together.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Todd, and looking forward for more success. And what would be a piece of advice for those people out there who want to be an author like you?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, we all have a book in us, right? Everybody's got a book in you. The best piece of advice I ever got was from a guy named Rory Baton, who's a brand builder, and essentially what he said is, you're in the best position to teach the person you once were. So if you want to write a book, think about the person you were 3, 5, 10 years ago, and that's the person that you're in the best position to teach something to, and then write that book for that specific individual. And what comes out onto the paper is something where you have expertise, where you have authority, and where you can provide significant value to somebody who's just a few years behind where you are today.
Well, thank you for that advice, Mr. Todd. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence you, Darnie?
Yeah, my absolute favorite book ever, and it's the reason I wrote business fiction in this book, is The Goal by Eliyahu Goldratt. And it's essentially a business fiction novel, that teaches the theory of constraints. So he takes a business fiction novel and he teaches a very complex theory in a way that you can go back and be like, oh, I remember how he did continuous improvement because it was in this chapter where he did X, Y, and Z. And I just think that was such a cool way to teach business. So The Goal by Eliyahu Goldratt, I read it every single year.
Well, thank you for that recommended book, Mr. Todd. And tell us, looking at the education system or corporate training programs, what is the one fundamental thing we are teaching completely wrong because it ignores the potential of the hypomanic mind?
Yeah, and I think it all comes back to diversity, right? Think about the last 5 diversity trainings you've had, and think about how many of those focused on mental divergence, neurodivergence. The today's Gen Z, 50% or more, kind of they affiliate themselves with some form of neurodivergence. That wasn't the case in my generation or the generation before us. And so what we have to remember is my generation, generation before us, are the managers right now. We're not used to neurodivergence, and we've got this huge influx of employees who wear it on their sleeves, and they're very attuned to neurodivergence, and the way that their minds are working differently. But the diversity programs and the diversity training is not caught up to that. So it's causing this thing where the younger generation talks about neurodivergence all the time. They're looking for accommodations, and the older generation doesn't understand it at all, and we're scared of it. And that's a huge, huge opportunity for somebody to get serious about and really start teaching inside of these diversity programs at work.
Interesting indeed, Mr. Todd. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast, Low 101. Mental Health 101 and Bible Verses 101, Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its second season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Todd, the book feels like a manifesto as much as a guide. What is the ultimate change you want to see in the world now that the unfair advantage is out there?
Yeah, what I really, really can't wait for is for people to message me and be like, you know what, I took that Corellan method and I implemented in this, and this is how it worked out. And I really think that there are going to be some managers who have never done a turnaround before that will take new roles and get excited because they have tools that they can walk into a turnaround and think differently with. And rather than being scared of a turnaround situation, they can be excited. And frankly, turnarounds get a bad name. It's hard. It's not fun. It's aggressive management. But in reality, what you're doing is you're saving jobs and you're producing jobs because that business, if not for your turnaround, is going to go out of business. And you need to go in there and save it, save those jobs, and then grow that business so they can hire more. It's extremely important work. And I wish more people would get excited about it and go and take those bull by the horns.
Mr. Todd Hagopian, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your debut?
Yep, absolutely. Unfair Advantage available on Amazon pre-order. It'll be for order here soon. And then toddhagopian.com. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Todd Hagopian because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Todd, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it.
Modicon people, see you soon.